Rain clung to the kitchen windows like a second layer of glass, trembling each time the wind touched it. Seattle had a way of making even the warmest homes feel cold, and tonight, the Ward apartment carried a chill that no heating system could fix. Olivia sat across the marble counter, her posture flawless, her hair still neat from a 12-hour workday, while Ethan stood opposite her, shoulders tight, tie loosened, exhaustion hanging under his eyes like bruises. Between them lay a manila folder. She nudged it gently, the motion almost affectionate, and offered a smile that didn't match the storm outside. "Ethan," she said softly, "accept my male friend, or this marriage is over." He didn't move. Couldn't. The words hit him with a weight that pushed the entire room off balance. Male friend. He knew exactly who she meant. Adrian Cole. The name alone made Ethan feel as though he were suddenly underwater, lungs burning for air. Nights of suspicion, of cold dinners and distant glances rushed back at him with brutal clarity. He thought he had prepared himself for whatever truth waited beneath her silence. He was wrong. The folder remained between them, a border, a threat, a confession. "Olivia," he said finally, voice shaking around the edges, "what are you asking me to accept?" She exhaled, long and steady, as if she had practiced it in the mirror. "That he matters to me," she said, "that he understands parts of me you never tried to see." Ethan swallowed hard, his pulse loud in his ears. "Are you having an affair?" Her eyes didn't flinch. "Not in the way you think." Which was worse? So much worse. A physical betrayal had rules, boundaries, explanations you could point at and say, "Here, this is where you hurt me." But an emotional betrayal? It was fog. No beginning, no end, no way out. He opened the folder with trembling fingers. Divorce papers. Clean, crisp, unapologetic. "You already signed them," he whispered. "I did," she said, folding her hands, "but I want you to sign only if you can't accept that I need someone else in my life. Someone who sees me differently." The rain outside intensified, tapping against the glass like impatient fingers. Ethan's mind flashed through their 6 years together. Sunday morning pancakes, moving into this apartment with its view of the Sound, the way Olivia used to wrap her arms around him at night without invitation. There had been laughter once, softness, a future built with careful, hopeful hands. Now all of it felt like a memory belonging to someone else. "When did you stop being mine?" he asked quietly. Her eyes flickered, not with guilt, but with something sadder, something older. "I don't know if I ever fully was." The sentence landed like a blade twisting deep. He stumbled back a step, leaning against the fridge to steady himself. The hum of the appliance filled the silence between them. He stared at her, really stared, and realized he hadn't seen her in months, maybe years. They had lived parallel lives under the same roof, tied together by routine more than love. "I thought we were okay," he said, hating how small his voice sounded. Olivia looked down at her manicured nails. "We were stable, but stable isn't the same as alive." A flash of jealousy, dark, sharp, cut through Ethan's chest. "Is he alive to you?" he asked. Her silence was the answer. Thunder rumbled far across the sky. Ethan felt the sound in his bones. He took a deep breath. "Why tonight? Why like this?" "Because," she said, "you deserve to know the truth, and I deserve to stop hiding from it." "But you're smiling," he said, unable to keep the bitterness from his voice. "Why are you smiling, Olivia?" She blinked, caught off guard. The smile faded. "Because," she whispered, "I'm finally being honest." The truth sank like a stone between them. Ethan pressed his palm to the divorce papers, not signing, just feeling the weight of them. His reflection stared back from the glossy surface. A man blindsided, humiliated, unraveling. He wondered if Adrian had ever seen this version of him, broken, uncertain. Probably not. Adrian saw Olivia's shadows, her brilliance, the vulnerability she hid from Ethan. The intimacy of being confided in was a kind of seduction Ethan had underestimated. The room felt smaller with every passing second. Olivia stood. "I'm going to bed. Take your time." She walked away with footsteps that made no sound. When the bedroom door clicked shut, Ethan let out a shuddered breath he didn't know he'd been holding. The papers blurred as tears welled. Anger, grief, disbelief, all twisting into a single ache. He whispered into the empty room, "What happened to us?" No answer came, only the rain. Morning arrived without permission. A pale, washed-out light seeped through the blinds of the ward apartment, casting long, fragile lines across the hardwood floor. Seattle's sky was an exhausted gray, one of those mornings where even the sun seemed unsure if it should bother showing up. Ethan stood in the living room, still wearing last night's clothes, unsure whether he had slept at all or merely drifted in and out of painful thoughts. The divorce papers remained on the kitchen counter where Olivia left them, angled slightly as if they had been watching him all night. He avoided the kitchen entirely. Instead, he stood near the window overlooking Elliott Bay. Cargo ships moved slowly across the horizon, steady, purposeful, everything he wasn't. Behind him, he heard the soft whisper of footsteps. Olivia entered the room wearing a cream-colored sweater and tailored pants, her hair loosely tied back. She looked like any successful woman leaving for her morning meeting, composed, polished, untouchable, not like someone who had shattered her husband the night before. "Morning," she said, her tone neutral. Ethan didn't turn around. "Morning." A pause, thin, tense. "You didn't sleep," she observed. "Neither did you," he replied. She didn't deny it. He finally turned. Their eyes met, and for a moment, Ethan thought he saw something like regret flicker in hers. Or maybe it was just the remnants of tiredness. It was impossible to tell anymore. Her face had become too skilled at hiding what mattered. "I made coffee," she said softly. It felt absurd. Domestic gestures in the ruins of a marriage. He shook his head. "No thanks." Olivia hesitated. "Ethan, we should talk about last night." "No," he said sharply, surprising both of them. "We shouldn't. Not right now. Running from it won't help. And pretending you didn't put divorce papers on the table won't help either." Silence pressed down between them again. Her phone buzzed on the counter. She glanced at the screen too quickly. Ethan caught the micro-expression he wasn't meant to see. The way her eyes softened. The faint, instinctive smile. He knew that look. "Was that him?" Ethan asked quietly. She froze. "You don't have to answer," he added. "Your face already did." Olivia closed her eyes, inhaled, then steadied herself. "Ethan, Adrian isn't—" "Don't," he said. "Don't defend him to me." The hurt in his voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It sat there, like a bruise spreading slowly under the skin. Olivia placed her phone face down on the counter. "I'm meeting him later, to talk, to clarify things." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Clarify what? Whether he's worth ending our marriage for?" "That's not fair," she said. He laughed, a hollow, tired sound. "Nothing about this is fair, Olivia." She took a careful step toward him. "I'm not trying to punish you. I'm trying to be honest about what I feel, about what's been broken for a long time." "What needed fixing," he corrected, "not breaking." Olivia's throat bobbed, but she said nothing. They stood facing each other like two actors lost in the wrong scene, one desperate to stay, the other desperate to leave, but unsure how. Finally, she checked the time. "I have to go. We'll talk tonight." Ethan nodded stiffly. Before leaving, she paused at the doorway. "Ethan?" He looked up. I really am sorry. He held her gaze, searching for sincerity. It was there, faint but real, like a light seen far away through fog. Me too, he said. She left without another word. The door closed gently, almost apologetically. The apartment fell into a heavy quiet. Ethan's hands were trembling before he realized it. He sat on the edge of the couch, head in his hands, trying to breathe through the pressure building in his chest. A marriage didn't die in one night. It died in thousands of small, careless moments. Moments he had missed. Moments she had hidden. Moments both of them had chosen convenience over connection. He didn't know whether to feel guilty or betrayed, so he felt both. His eyes drifted toward the bedroom door Olivia had shut the night before. It was slightly ajar now, the sliver of darkness inside looking unnervingly symbolic. He walked toward it, hesitated, then pushed it open. Everything inside looked perfectly ordinary. Her lotion on the dresser, her work bag leaning against the closet, her favorite beige coat draped over the chair. But the air felt different, thicker somehow, as if holding on to the echoes of everything they didn't say. He sat on the edge of the bed. That's when he noticed it. A thin notebook half hidden beneath her pillow. The cover was worn, the edges softened by time. He recognized it vaguely. Olivia used to carry it everywhere years ago, jotting thoughts and fragments of ideas for ad campaigns. He picked it up slowly, almost reverently. Should he read it? Probably not. But his hands moved before his conscience could argue. The first page was harmless, meeting notes, scattered ideas. The second page wasn't. A date, 2 months ago. A single sentence written in Olivia's neat cursive. He sees me in a way Ethan doesn't anymore. Ethan felt something inside him tear, quietly, almost politely. He kept reading. With Adrian, I don't feel like I'm performing. I wish Ethan knew how lonely I've been. Maybe this isn't cheating. Maybe this is the version of me that survived. He closed the journal before he reached the bottom of the page. His breath stuttered. The room suddenly felt too small, too suffocating. He placed the journal back exactly as he found it, then stood and walked out. His reflection caught in the hallway mirror, eyes red, face pale, shoulders slumped under a weight he didn't yet know how to carry. For the first time, he wondered if Olivia was right. Maybe their marriage had been dying long before Adrian ever entered the picture. Maybe Ethan had been holding on to a love that had already slipped through both their fingers. He whispered into the empty hallway, "What am I supposed to do now?" No one answered. Only the apartment, silent and aching, seemed to know. Ethan didn't plan on running into Adrian. He hadn't rehearsed the moment, hadn't braced himself, hadn't imagined how it would feel to stand face to face with the man whose presence lived inside Olivia's smile. But life, especially the version of life that unravels, rarely waits for permission. It happened later that afternoon. Ethan had left the apartment to escape the suffocating stillness. He wandered through the wet streets of Capitol Hill, the air carrying the familiar scent of coffee grounds and damp concrete. Seattle had a way of making loneliness feel almost poetic. Almost. He ended up in a small coffee shop he and Olivia used to visit years earlier, before the exhaustion, before the distance, before Adrian. The place hadn't changed. Mismatched chairs, Edison bulbs hanging low, indie music humming softly from hidden speakers. But it felt foreign now, like a place that had belonged to a younger, simpler version of him. He ordered a latte and sat near the fogged-up window. Minutes passed, then the door opened, and the world shifted. Adrian Cole walked in. Ethan knew instantly, not because he had ever seen the man in person, but because he recognized the aura Olivia had tried so hard to describe without admitting she was describing him. Adrian carried a camera slung over his shoulder, its leather strap worn from years of use. His jacket was paint-spattered. His hair fell in loose waves that looked intentionally careless. He had that quiet, magnetic confidence artists seemed born with. A confidence Ethan had lost somewhere along the spreadsheets and performance reviews. Adrian approached the counter, oblivious to Ethan's presence. Ethan's heart jackhammered inside his chest. A part of him wanted to leave. Another part wanted to confront the man and demand answers, but his legs didn't move. He was trapped in some emotional purgatory between fury and fear. Adrian ordered black coffee, no sugar, and turned. He froze. Their eyes met. Recognition flickered across Adrian's face. Not surprise. Not guilt. Something else. Something like inevitability. He walked toward Ethan's table with steady, careful steps. "Ethan Ward?" Adrian asked. Ethan's throat constricted. "Yeah." Adrian nodded slowly. "I thought so." The air between them tightened. "Do you mind if I sit?" Adrian asked. Ethan hesitated. "I don't know. Should you?" Adrian accepted the answer for what it was. Messy, bitter, honest, and sat anyway. For a long moment, neither spoke. Ethan stared into his coffee, fingers tightening around the cup until it burned. Then he exhaled through gritted teeth. "Did you know she gave me divorce papers last night?" Adrian's eyes softened. "I didn't know it was last night, but I knew she was considering it." Ethan's jaw clenched. "Of course you did." Adrian didn't snap back. He didn't defend himself. He simply looked at Ethan with an expression that made the anger in Ethan's chest twist into something darker, more painful. "I'm not trying to replace you," Adrian said quietly. Ethan let out a bitter laugh. "You already did." "No," Adrian replied, shaking his head. "I'm not what she needs. I'm just someone she talked to when she felt unseen." The words cut deeper precisely because Adrian didn't say them with arrogance. He said them with regret. Ethan looked away, staring out the window where the rain slid in silvery lines. "How long has this been going on?" Adrian took a careful breath. "A few months, but not the way you think." "I'm listening," Ethan said, though every part of him wanted to walk out. "I met her at a gallery," Adrian said softly. She seemed lost, not in a dramatic way, just tired, like she'd been holding her breath for years without realizing it. Ethan swallowed hard. "She talked about work, pressure, expectations," Adrian continued. "She talked about feeling like she had to be perfect all the time. And she talked about you, mostly with love, sometimes with frustration, but never with hate." Ethan's chest tightened painfully. "She wasn't cheating," Adrian said. "She was unraveling." "And you helped her unravel," Ethan said sharply. Adrian didn't flinch. "Yes, I did." The honesty stunned Ethan into silence. Outside, a bus hissed to a stop. A couple hurried past under a shared umbrella. Life kept moving as if Ethan's world hadn't splintered into pieces too sharp to touch. Finally, Ethan asked the question he feared most. "Do you love her?" Adrian exhaled slowly. "Not in the way you think. I admire her. I understand her. I care about her deeply. But love?" He shook his head. "I think Olivia is looking for someone she hasn't even met yet. A version of herself she wants to become. I'm not that person, and neither are you, at least not the version of you she sees right now." The words felt like a punch, brutal because they were true. "Then why didn't you stay away?" Ethan whispered. Adrian looked down, rubbing a thumb along the rim of his coffee cup. "Because she kept showing up, and because loneliness always recognizes loneliness." Ethan swallowed the lump rising in his throat. Adrian leaned back slightly, his gaze steady. "I'm not your enemy, Ethan." Ethan met his eyes, dark, searching. "Then what the hell are you?" Adrian sighed. "A reminder of what she's missing." of what you stopped giving, and of what she's afraid to ask for. Ethan's breath shattered in his chest. The truth was a blade, and it fit. Adrian stood. If you want her back, you need to talk to her, not fight me. Ethan stared at the table. I don't even know who she is anymore. Adrian placed a gentle hand on the back of the empty chair. Maybe that's the problem. You've been loving the memory of her. She's been trying to become someone new. He stepped away. Before leaving, he paused. I hope you sign the papers only if it's what you want, not because you think you've already lost. The door chimed as he walked out into the rain. Ethan sat alone, heart pounding, the room spinning with truths he hated hearing. For the first time, he wasn't sure Olivia was the only one who had been drifting away. Maybe he had too. Evening descended slowly over Seattle, turning the skyline into a collage of blurred lights and muted reflections on the sound. Ethan returned to the apartment long after the conversation with Adrian, walking as though the city itself weighed on him. Every raindrop, every passing face, every distant siren seemed to echo the same truth. Nothing in his life was as he believed. The apartment was dark when he entered. No soft glow from the kitchen, no heels on. The floor, no. Olivia humming unconsciously along with the radio as she made tea. The absence of her was louder than her presence had ever been. He flipped on the light. The divorce papers were still on the counter. They seemed to greet him like a verdict. Ethan dropped his keys, hesitated, then walked into the living room. The silence had a pulse. The walls felt saturated with the residue of old arguments, suppressed feelings, unsaid needs. It wasn't the home they'd built. It was the home they'd neglected. He sat on the couch, elbows on his knees, staring at the doorway. He wasn't sure if he wanted Olivia to walk through it or if he dreaded it. But she did. The door clicked at 8:42 p.m. Ethan lifted his head as Olivia stepped in, her umbrella dripping, her hair damp at the ends. She looked exhausted, but also strangely serene, worn-down serenity, the kind that came after a difficult truth had been spoken aloud. She set her bag down gently, as if afraid to break the quiet. "You're home," she whispered. Ethan didn't know whether it was a question or an accusation. "I am," he said. Their eyes held for a moment, two people who had lived together for years but suddenly felt like strangers standing at opposite ends of a bridge that might collapse if either of them took a step. Olivia walked closer, unbuttoning her coat with slow fingers. "We need to talk. I think we can't avoid it anymore." He nodded. "I know." She sat across from him, tucking her knees to the side, posture tense but composed. She looked at him, the way someone looks at an old photograph. Familiar, affectionate, distant. Ethan broke the silence first. "I ran into him today." The color drained from her cheeks. "Adrian?" Ethan nodded. Olivia inhaled sharply and looked away, jaw tightening. "I didn't plan that. I didn't want—" "He told me the truth," Ethan said. Her fingers closed around her sweater sleeve. "What truth?" "That you were lonely," he said. "That he listened. That he saw the version of you I stopped paying attention to." Olivia froze. For a moment, she looked like she might break open. Like the mask she had worn so persistently might slip and reveal everything she'd been hiding. She whispered, "He shouldn't have told you that." "He wasn't defending himself," Ethan said. "He wasn't blaming me either." Olivia pressed her hands together, knuckles white. "Then what was he doing? Telling me you were drowning." Her lips parted, eyes suddenly wet, not with tears, but with something deeper. Something she had been guarding for years. "Ethan," she began, but her voice cracked. She looked down, breath trembling. "I didn't want to hurt you. I swear I didn't." "Then why did you?" he asked softly. This time the tears did come, silently, slowly, as if they had been waiting for years to be allowed. She wiped one away with the back of her hand. Because I didn't know how to tell you I was disappearing. The room held its breath. Olivia swallowed hard. I've spent so long trying to be the perfect version of myself, for work, for my family, for you. And somewhere in the middle, I stopped being myself at all. Ethan felt a tightness in his chest, painful and tender. I tried to reach out, she continued, voice trembling. I tried to tell you I needed you, but every time I did, you were tired or busy or stressed, and I didn't blame you. I still don't. But the distance grew, and I didn't know how to shrink it without begging. You could have told me, Ethan whispered. You should have told me. I know, she said, but I didn't want you to see how weak I felt. He stared at her, really stared, and for the first time, he saw the truth in her tired eyes. The exhaustion, the pressure, the loneliness she had carried like a secret. And something inside him softened. But then, why him? Ethan asked, voice raw. Why Adrian? Olivia closed her eyes as if bracing for impact. Because he saw the cracks, she said quietly, and because he wasn't afraid of them. Ethan's breath hitched, painful, involuntary. I wasn't looking for him, she said. I wasn't searching for anything. But when he listened, really listened, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. What? Ethan asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted the answer. Safe, she whispered. The word gutted him. He leaned back, eyes burning. I didn't know you didn't feel safe with me. It wasn't your fault, she insisted. You were carrying your own weight, your own expectations. I just never wanted to add mine. But instead, Ethan said quietly, you gave them to someone else. Olivia didn't defend herself. She didn't deny it. She simply nodded, a single tear tracing down her cheek. Ethan rubbed his temples, trying to breathe through the ache. When did we lose each other? Olivia shook her head. I don't know, but I think it happened slowly. So slowly we pretended it wasn't happening at all. They sat together in the dimly lit room, surrounded by memories that had faded without either of them noticing. Finally, Olivia whispered, I never wanted this. I just wanted to be happy again. With you. Or with myself. Ethan swallowed. Is there a version of this where we fix it? Her eyes met his, full of love, regret, fear. I don't know, she admitted, but I think the person I've been isn't someone you could have understood, and that's on me. Ethan felt the weight of truth settle heavy between them, an invisible wall built brick by brick, year by year. Olivia reached into her bag, hands shaking slightly, and placed something on the coffee table. A small, worn photo. Ethan leaned forward. It was Olivia at 22, smiling, vibrant, alive in ways she no longer was. She looked like someone who believed the world could be gentle. Olivia whispered, That's the version of me I've been trying to find again. Ethan stared at the photo, then at her. 2 different people, 2 different lives, and a marriage held together by habit rather than hope. He leaned back, voice barely audible. And what do you need from me now? Olivia hesitated, then answered truthfully. Honesty. Maybe for the first time. Her words lingered, painful, necessary, impossible. Ethan closed his eyes, realizing something inescapable. Tonight wasn't about saving their marriage. Tonight was about finally facing the truth of it. The apartment was quiet after Olivia's confession, but it wasn't a peaceful quiet. It was the kind that hummed beneath the skin, an almost electric stillness, full of words they weren't ready to say and truths they weren't brave enough to face. Olivia had gone to shower, leaving Ethan alone on the couch with the soft ticking of the wall clock. 8:57 p.m., 8:58, 8:59. Time kept moving even though their marriage felt frozen in place. Ethan leaned back against the couch cushions, staring at the dim glow of the lamp. Olivia's photo, the bright 22-year-old version of her, sat on the coffee table like a ghost of who she used to be. He felt the same ache rise in his chest, the same one that had stayed with him since reading the journal earlier that day. He hadn't told her. He should have, but he didn't know how. Every time he pictured the words he'd seen, "He sees me in a way Ethan doesn't anymore." His stomach twisted. It wasn't just jealousy. It was grief. Deep, old grief for a version of their marriage that no longer existed. Footsteps padded softly down the hallway. Olivia returned wearing a gray sweater and leggings, hair damp and loose around her shoulders. She looked smaller somehow, like someone who had cried before stepping out of the bathroom and was now pretending she hadn't. She sat at the far end of the couch, curling her legs beneath her. Neither spoke. The city lights flickered across the window, reflecting faintly on her cheekbones. After a long silence, Olivia whispered, "Can I ask you something? Something honest?" Ethan nodded, though his pulse kicked up in warning. "Do you hate me?" The question hung in the air, vulnerable and raw. Ethan turned toward her. "I could never hate you." Her throat tightened. "Even after everything I've done?" He swallowed. "Hating you would be easier, but I'm not that lucky." Olivia looked down at her hands, twisting her fingers together nervously. "I keep expecting you to explode, to yell, to blame me for all of it." "You want me to yell?" he asked softly. "I want you to feel something," she said, "even if it's anger." "I feel too much," he whispered. "That's the problem." Their eyes met. Something flickered there. Shared pain, shared history, shared failure. Ethan finally took a deep breath. "There's something I need to tell you." Olivia's expression sharpened. "What is it?" He hesitated. The words felt heavy on his tongue. Dangerous. Inevitable. "I read your journal." Silence. Complete. Utter. Stillness. Olivia went pale. Her entire body stiffened as though he had struck her. "What? What do you mean?" she whispered. "I found it under your pillow earlier. I shouldn't have opened it. I know that, but I did." Her mouth parted slightly, her breath catching. She pulled her sweater sleeves over her hands as if trying to hide inside them. "You had no right." "I know," he said quietly, "and I'm sorry." She closed her eyes, pained. "What did you read?" Ethan remembered every word. Each one had cut clean and precise. "That you didn't feel seen, that Adrian understood you in ways I didn't." Olivia's eyes filled instantly, not with anger, but with something softer, something more devastating. "I wrote those things when I was hurting," she said, voice trembling, "when I felt invisible." Ethan nodded. "I'm not angry about the words. I'm angry at myself for not knowing you felt that way." She shook her head, tears threatening to spill. "I didn't want you to know. I didn't want you to worry about me. You were already caring so much." "And you weren't?" Ethan asked, a tremor in his voice. Her lips shook. "I was, but I didn't want to add my weight on top of yours." Their marriage, so carefully curated, so publicly admired, had been cracking silently beneath the pressure of two people pretending to be fine. Olivia wiped her cheek with the back of her hand. "That journal. It's where I put the parts of myself I can't say aloud. That's why it hurt," he said. "Because it was the truest version of you." She covered her face briefly, taking a shaky breath. "I wasn't supposed to fall apart. I'm the strong one, the planner, the responsible one, the one who keeps everything together." "You're allowed to break too," Ethan said. Olivia's voice cracked. "Not in the world I come from." And there it was, a glimpse into something deeper. Ethan softened. "Is this about work, pressure, or something else?" Olivia hesitated, longer than a normal hesitation, a hesitation that meant there was more, something buried, something old. Finally, she whispered, "My mother used to say, people stay only if you're valuable enough, if you're worth choosing." Ethan felt the words hit him like cold water. "And you believed her?" he asked gently. Olivia shrugged helplessly. "I think part of me still does." Ethan leaned forward, elbows on his knees, voice low and sincere. "You don't have to perform for me, Olivia." Her chin trembled. "But I didn't know how to stop." He wanted to reach for her hand. He didn't. She wasn't done. "And Adrian?" Ethan asked. Olivia's eyes softened with a painful honesty. He saw the cracks and didn't flinch. He didn't expect perfection. He didn't expect anything. "And I did?" Ethan whispered. She closed her eyes. "Not intentionally, but yes. I always felt like I had to be the best version of myself for you, and somewhere along the way I forgot who the real version was." Ethan's chest tightened. There it was, the real wound, not the affair, not the emotional intimacy, not the divorce papers, but the years of pretending. Pretending she was fine. Pretending he didn't notice. Pretending they were still the couple they used to be. Olivia wiped at her eyes, voice cracking. "I don't want to lose you, Ethan, but part of me doesn't know how to come back to this marriage without becoming someone I'm not." The confession knocked the wind out of him. He whispered, "I don't want to lose you either." They sat in silence for a long time, both of them breathing, breaking, understanding in ways they never had before. Finally, Olivia said, What do we do now?" Ethan looked at the divorce papers, then at the woman he had loved for years, the woman he was only now beginning to truly see. "I think," he said slowly, painfully, "we start by being honest. With each other. With ourselves. No more pretending." Her eyes glistened. "And after that?" Ethan didn't look at the papers this time. He looked at her. "I don't know," he said. "But maybe not knowing is better than lying." Olivia nodded, trembling with the weight of truth. For the first time in years, they weren't performing. They were just human, broken, bruised, real. And somewhere in that quiet honesty, something shifted, not fixing, not healing, but beginning. Morning arrived quietly, slipping through the blinds in narrow bands of gold that cut across the apartment like fault lines. Ethan sat at the edge of the bed, elbows on his knees, watching the sunlight inch closer to Olivia's sleeping form. Her breaths rose and fell softly, too softly for a woman carrying the weight she had confessed the night before. A strange peace filled the space between them. Not reconciliation, not forgiveness, just the calm that comes after a storm has finally admitted it is a storm. He let her sleep. He needed time to think. Ethan moved quietly into the living room, grabbing his laptop. Dozens of emails waited, clients, coworkers, reminders of the world outside their fracture. But one notification seized his attention immediately. A message from Adrian Clark. 3 words. "Can we talk?" Ethan stared at the screen, heart beating a slow, angry pulse. It wasn't dramatic fury. It was something quieter, colder, something that felt dangerously close to resignation. He didn't reply. He closed the laptop and exhaled. But the shadow had entered the room anyway. Olivia woke an hour later. Ethan heard her footsteps before he saw her. She walked into the kitchen wearing his old t-shirt, her hair slightly tangled, her eyes swollen from the, night's unraveling. She paused when she saw him. "Morning." "Morning," he said softly. She boiled water for coffee. The kettle's whistle seemed too loud for the fragile moment they were in, but neither commented on it. After a long silence, Olivia finally asked, "What time is your meeting?" In an hour, she nodded. Do we need to talk more before you leave? Ethan hesitated. I think we should, but I don't know where to begin. Olivia leaned against the counter, holding her mug with both hands. Then, can I start? He nodded. I'm not asking you to forgive me. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Her voice didn't waver this time. It carried something steadier, more determined. But I need to tell you more about why everything with Adrian happened. The truth, not the version in my journal. Ethan's chest tightened, but he said, Okay. Olivia placed her mug down carefully, as though afraid it might crack too. It didn't start as anything emotional, she said. It started because I lied to myself. I told myself he was safe, that he didn't want anything from me, that he wasn't you. Ethan felt a tiny slice of pain, thin and sharp. Meaning what? Meaning he wasn't someone I needed to impress. She rubbed her thumb anxiously along the handle of the mug. I didn't think I was capable of being unfaithful. I thought what I told Adrian stayed in a different drawer of my life, closed, contained. And then? Olivia looked down, shame tilting her shoulders. And then he became the drawer I opened when I couldn't breathe. Ethan swallowed hard. Did you love him? No. Her answer was immediate, too immediate. Then she amended, softer. I didn't think I did. But maybe I loved the version of myself I was around him. That hurt in a different way, a deeper way. Ethan looked away, his breath shaky. Is he in love with you? He asked. Olivia froze. Ethan knew the answer before she spoke. He said he wasn't, she whispered, but his actions felt different. Ethan nodded slowly. He messaged me this morning. Olivia went completely still, mug halfway to her lips. Her voice dropped. What did he say? Just asked if we could talk. Olivia set the mug down too quickly. She swore under her breath and pressed a hand to her forehead. He shouldn't have done that. He seems to think he has the right, Ethan said, not cruelly, but truthfully. Olivia's breath shuddered out. I'm sorry. For what? Ethan asked. For bringing him into our marriage? For letting him become a presence you have to deal with? For making this mess yours, too? Ethan shook his head. We made this mess together, Olivia. You and I both ignored things. We both pretended. She exhaled shakily, her shoulders loosening in the smallest, saddest way. I don't want him involved anymore. Not in my life. Not in this. Ethan absorbed the words. They mattered, but they weren't enough on their own. Does he know that? He asked. No, she admitted. I told him I needed space, but I never said I wanted to end it. I didn't know how, or maybe I wasn't ready to let him go until last night. Ethan watched her closely. What changed last night? Olivia looked right at him, eyes bare, defenses stripped away. You did, when you didn't yell, when you didn't walk out, when you chose to sit with my truth instead of punishing me for it. Ethan blinked, stunned by the sincerity. She moved closer, not touching him, just close enough for her warmth to reach him. I'm choosing this marriage, Olivia whispered. Not because I feel guilty, not because I'm afraid, but because I want to stop running. From myself, from you, from everything. Ethan's voice was rough. And what about Adrian? I'll tell him it's over, completely. Her breath hitched. And I'll do it today. Ethan held her gaze for a long moment, not trusting blindly, not forgiving instantly, just seeing her, really seeing her. Finally he said, Okay. Olivia nodded, relief and fear mixing on her face. Okay. But before they could say more, Ethan's phone buzzed sharply on the table. A second message, from Adrian. If she won't tell you, I will. Ethan's breath stopped. Olivia's mouth fell open. And just like that, the shadow in the room grew darker, wider, impossible to ignore. The kettle clicked off in the background, but neither of them heard it. Their fragile beginning had just been cracked open again by the man who refused to stay in the drawer Olivia had closed. Ethan didn't move for several seconds. Neither did Olivia. The phone sat between them like an explosive device, silent, glowing, waiting. Olivia was the first to speak, her voice thin with dread. "Ethan, please don't answer." But Ethan already knew he would. Something in Adrian's message had pierced through the quiet progress he and Olivia had begun to make. It wasn't jealousy. It wasn't even anger. It was fear. Fear that there was still something Olivia hadn't told him. He picked up the phone. Olivia flinched. "Ethan, I have to know." Her eyes shimmered with panic, a panic that told him more than words could. He opened the message thread. Before he could respond, another text appeared. "Adrian, I'm not doing this to hurt you, but she's lying if she says I'm not part of the reason she changed." Ethan felt the words land in his chest like cold stones. Olivia's hand flew to her mouth. "That's not true, she whispered. "He's twisting." The phone buzzed again. "Adrian, she wasn't unhappy because of you. She was unhappy because she was in love with two different lives." A tremor of something old and familiar passed through Olivia. Shame, memory, temptation, regret. Ethan couldn't name it, but he saw it claim her. He managed. "Is any of this true?" Olivia sank into a chair, gripping its edges as though the world tilted beneath her. "I never loved him," she whispered. "That's not what I asked." She closed her eyes. Silence. Cracking silence. Ethan felt something inside him pull tight, then tighter, until breathing felt like forcing air through grief. Finally, Olivia opened her eyes again. "I didn't love him, but I got addicted to what that world felt like." "What world?" "The world where nothing was expected of me, where I didn't have to be the perfect partner, where someone looked at me and saw possibility instead of duty." A small, involuntary wince crossed Ethan's face. Olivia noticed. "Ethan, please, don't twist that. I'm not saying you made me feel trapped. I trapped myself. I let my own fears turn into walls around me." But the words didn't soothe him. Not this time. Ethan stood up and walked toward the balcony door, needing distance, needing air. Olivia followed him with her eyes, but didn't move. She knew pushing would break the fragile line between honesty and cruelty. "Did he ever tell you he loved you?" Ethan asked quietly, not turning. Olivia swallowed hard. "Yes." The single syllable cracked something sharp and painful across Ethan's chest. "And what did you say?" His voice was barely audible. "I told him he didn't mean it, that he only loved the idea of saving someone." "That's not a no." "It wasn't a yes either," she whispered. He turned. His face wasn't angry. It was devastated. "That's the problem, Olivia. Everything with him has lived in the space between yes and no." She flinched, but she didn't deny it. The phone buzzed again. Ethan almost didn't look. Almost. But he did. "Adrian, if she won't tell you why she really came to me last month, I will. Call me." Olivia's face drained of color. Ethan's heart dropped. "Last month?" Olivia pressed a hand to her forehead, whispering, "Please don't make me do this like this." "What happened last month?" She shook her head. "Not like this. Not through him. Let me tell you myself." "Then tell me." Her lips trembled. She took a shaky breath. "It was the night after your father's surgery," she began carefully. Ethan's expression shifted instantly, pain flickering into confusion. "What about it?" "I felt you slipping away, not intentionally, not because you wanted to. You were terrified about losing him. You were shutting down emotionally." "I was coping," Ethan muttered. "I know," Olivia whispered, But I didn't know how to be there for you when you wouldn't let anyone in. And you ran to him? Ethan asked quietly. No, I didn't run. Then softer, more broken. I collapsed. Ethan's stomach twisted. I drove to his place because I didn't want you to see me having a panic attack. I didn't want to add my fear to yours. I didn't want you to think I was weak when you needed strength around you. Her voice cracked. I didn't go there for him, Ethan. I went there because I didn't want you to worry about me. But Ethan didn't speak. Not yet. And nothing happened, she continued desperately. Nothing physical, nothing romantic. I cried. He listened, that's all. Ethan ran a hand over his face, exhausted. It matters, Olivia, he said. Whether you wanted it to or not, it matters. She nodded helplessly, tears slipping quietly down her cheeks. I know, she whispered. He stared at the city beyond the glass, the high-rise offices and morning traffic and people living lives not knotted together by betrayal and fear. So why didn't you tell me sooner? He asked. Because I was ashamed, she said. Because I didn't want you to see how easily I broke. Because I thought if I kept it buried, it would stop being real. He looked at her then, and something in him changed. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't accuse her. He didn't punish her. But a cold clarity entered his eyes. We can survive mistakes, he said, voice low, but we can't survive half-truths. Olivia reached out instinctively, desperately. Ethan! He stepped back, not far, but far enough. Until you tell me everything, he said, we're building on sand. Her hand lowered slowly, trembling. She whispered, I'm trying. I know, Ethan said softly, but I'm starting to understand something. What? That Adrian wasn't the threat. He swallowed hard. You were. Olivia's breath hitched, a sound like something breaking clean through the middle. Ethan looked at his phone once more. Adrian's messages glowed like warning signs. Then he locked the screen. I'm going to work, Ethan said quietly. Olivia didn't move, didn't breathe. Ethan, please don't leave like this, she whispered. He hesitated in the doorway, just long enough for a single crack of tenderness to appear. I'm not leaving, he said. I just need space. And then he was gone. The apartment was silent again, but this time, the silence felt like the beginning of an ending neither of them had been ready to name. The elevator ride to the 14th floor felt longer than usual. Ethan stood inside, staring at his faint reflection in the chrome wall. Last night's exhaustion clung to him. The strained conversation, Olivia's trembling voice, Adrian's messages like invisible fingerprints on the back of his mind. When the elevator doors opened, he walked into the marketing firm's open office, greeted by the hum of keyboards, coffee machines, coworkers discussing client briefs. The noise should have grounded him. It didn't. He moved automatically through tasks, meetings, numbers, scripts, everything familiar now seeming thinner, more brittle, like a world made of glass. At noon, he stepped out onto the rooftop terrace, where a few employees smoked or checked emails. Ethan took a deep breath of the cold air, hoping it would clear something inside him. It didn't. His phone vibrated. He expected Olivia. It wasn't her, Adrian Clark, calling. For a moment, Ethan closed his eyes. He didn't want this conversation. He didn't want this man in his world. He didn't want the shadow of someone else hovering over the ruins of his marriage. But he answered, Ethan, Adrian. Silence, not tense, measured, as if Adrian were choosing his words carefully. I'm not calling to fight, Adrian said, or to interfere. You already interfered, Ethan replied, voice low. Another pause. You're right, Adrian said, but she's not telling you everything, and you need the truth if you're going to decide anything. Ethan leaned against the railing. Then tell me. Adrian exhaled, a long, conflicted sound. She wasn't just overwhelmed that night she came to my place. She was terrified of losing you. Ethan frowned. What are you talking about? She thought you'd eventually leave, Adrian said quietly. She told me she felt like she was becoming the kind of partner you'd get tired of, that she wasn't enough anymore, that she was failing you, and that you just didn't notice. Ethan felt the words like small cuts. He didn't respond. And she didn't come to me because she wanted me, Adrian added. She came because she didn't want you to see her break. She was ashamed of how scared she was. Ethan's jaw tightened. That doesn't excuse anything. I'm not saying it does, Adrian said. But you deserve the whole truth, and she deserves someone who sees her fear for what it is, not what it looked like. Ethan stayed silent. Then Adrian said the one thing Ethan didn't expect. I'm not staying in this. I'm stepping out, for good. Ethan blinked. Why tell me that? Because she's choosing you, Ethan, Adrian said quietly. And if she loses you, she'll lose herself in the guilt of it. Something in Ethan's chest twisted painfully. I never wanted to take her from you, Adrian said. I just wanted her to feel human. She's allowed to break, you know, even with you. Ethan could barely speak. When he finally managed, his voice was rough. Are you in love with her? A long, honest pause. Yes, Adrian admitted. But that's exactly why I'm stepping away. He hung up. Ethan stood in the cold wind, heart pounding with something he couldn't yet name. Anger, grief, understanding, or all three at once. Back home. Olivia sat on the couch, knees pulled to her chest. When Ethan entered, she stood immediately. Ethan, I told him it's over. All of it. I blocked his number. I spoke to him, Ethan interrupted gently. Olivia froze. He walked past her, placed his keys on the counter, took off his coat. His movements were slow, deliberate, carrying a weight she felt but couldn't decipher. What did he say? She whispered. That you were afraid of losing me, Ethan said. More than you were afraid of anything else. Olivia closed her eyes, breath unsteady. It's true. He said you thought I'd leave eventually. I did, she whispered. I thought I was becoming someone you'd outgrow. Someone you'd resent for not keeping up with the life you wanted. Ethan looked at her then. Really looked. You're not someone I want to outgrow. Olivia's lips trembled. Then what are we doing, Ethan? Are we still trying? Or are we dragging something that's already dead? He stepped closer. Not enough to touch. Enough for the truth to land. I don't want this marriage to end, he said. But I don't want it to stay the way it was. She nodded, tears gathering. I don't want the old version of us either. Ethan exhaled, a soft, tired sound. Then we rebuild. Not from the beginning, from where we actually are. Olivia swallowed. And where is that? He took her hand, carefully, gently, as if touching something fragile but precious. We're at the truth, Ethan said, maybe for the first time. Her tears fell, but her fingers curled around his, holding on, tentative, hopeful, afraid, human. A long silence passed, the kind that didn't break them, but settled them. Olivia whispered, Can you forgive me? Ethan rubbed his thumb softly against her hand. Then, I can try, he said, if you'll forgive me too. For what? For not seeing how scared you were, for making you feel like you had to be perfect to stay. She broke then, not violently, not dramatically, just a soft collapse into honesty. I don't want perfect anymore, Biz, Olivia said. I just want real. Ethan nodded. Then real is what we'll have. They held each other for the first time in months, not in passion, Not in obligation, but in recognition. Outside, the city lights flickered on one by one. Inside, two people who had broken each other sat together in a quiet, fragile beginning. Not healed, not certain, not magically whole, just willing. And sometimes, in a marriage cracked by betrayal and fear, willing was the rarest, bravest thing of all.